I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge by Mr. Larson and the invocation by Mr. Perkins.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father in heaven, we are thankful for this day. We're thankful that we can meet tonight, discuss the affairs of the Shola School District. We are thankful for the moisture that thou hast sent in abundance. We are grateful for it. We're thankful for our teachers and our students and for the good things that they do. We pray that thou will continue to bless them, especially during testing times, that students will remember the things that they've been taught, be able to do well on those tests. We're grateful for this free country we live in, and we pray for those who are ill, that they will be able to be quickly nourished back to health. These scares of illness in our country and in the world will subside. And we ask for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
A motion for approval of the agenda.
I'll motion. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 3.2, recognition of high school spirit line, junior high spirit line, high school wrestling, and junior high boys basketball.
There's a lot to recognize tonight. One thing that normally the board does that probably won't happen tonight is usually the board invites you to come up and shake hands with all of you and pass germs back and forth. But tonight we probably won't do that. Okay, if you're all right with that. But we do want to recognize you. If Brittany McMillan and Darcy Healy, if you'll come on up and start with the recognition of the junior high and the spirit lines and done.
We're really excited to be here. We have a lot going on at the Shola Junior High that we're really proud of with our athletics department. So we're going to start with Shola Junior High cheer, who's coached by Brittany McMillan and Don Tomlinson, who recently went to state and took third place at state this year competition.
So I'm so very proud of them. This is my fourth year going with them, and this is the first time that I'm pretty sure that the junior high has ever placed. So they work so very, very hard all year. June to March is cheer season, basically. So they work hard all year, and I'm very, very proud of them. So I'm just going to have them come say their names real fast.
Yeah,
come on, say hello. Don't go ahead.
Go first.
Alexis DiCarlo, Jesse Chevalier, Caitlin Cotney, Trinity McGrath, Kaya Crafter, Bailey Brower, Aaliyah Howe, Elena Lust, Miranda Lopez, Sierra Sky, Angelina Poe, Kyla Berryman, Courtney Holloway, Caitlin Plank, Jamie Kaufman, Emma Haltom, Marissa Fopel.
And I want to say Belle Buckles is a proud member of our team too, but is not here because she had kidney transplant. But I always say liver, but it's not. But anyway, I'm very proud of you guys. Love you girls. So proud of you.
Yeah, congratulations. What's your sign up? We're very proud of our girls. We also this year, like she said, it was the first time for cheerleading to place at a state competition. We're not really quite sure how long it's been. We know it's been at least 15 years. But our 8th grade boys basketball went undefeated in the White Mountain League and took White Mountain League championship in basketball this year. So if I can have Coach Shane Healy and Art Power come on up. And I'll have them introduce the boys.
Came here for a picture. I know I'm talking.
Don't worry, it's on TV. And it won't ever go away.
It was a great season. It was a pleasure coaching these boys with Art Power. Amber Lynn and Art did an awesome job 7th grade year. And it was my honor to help them grow. It was a great season. I believe 16-0 this season is what we were. And last year included, took them to what, Coach?
7-0.
another 7-0 last year. So these boys deserve all the credit. They just come up individually or come on up, kiddos.
Brent Thrasher. Keen Butler. David Simmons. Nash Brewer.
Carlos Chavez.
Cutter Seeley. Colton Tidwell. Preston Power.
Owen Stoddard.
Peyton Adams.
Second trophy, they also won the Holbrook tournament this year as well. So pretty impressive. We're pretty proud of them all, and we expect big things next year for all of them. Good job. Cougars on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Congratulations, junior high cheer and basketball. Nice job.
Wrestling here?
What's up?
Wrestling here?
Yep. We'll invite Eric Reed, Coach Reed, to come up.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm going to bring up our first wrestler, Cole Housley. Cole was our only wrestler this year that was able to place at every single tournament this year, and taking second at state this year. I know he does not want to be recognized tonight, but it is an honor to have kids that are younger that are coming up, and we need them to place higher. So when he comes back to be a senior, he can definitely win that state title. Connor Schweigert. Connor took the state championship at 126 pounds. During the very beginning of the year, I knew that it was going to be a challenge coaching him because he had been with Coach Williams for so long. But I'm so glad that I was able to finish it off with you and you able to win it and finally get that championship. So, Connor Schweigert. Thank you very much.
Item 3.3, recognition. Oh, sorry. I don't want to hear anything else from
Mrs.
you.
Moya? Here's the high school. Yep,
There
come on
she
down.
is,
Bring
okay.
your coaching staff with you.
Good evening. These never get any fun. They're just not fun for me at all. I hate being in the public. Again, I have Gabe Moya and Rachel Olivier as my assistant coaches. Amazing thing, you cannot do any coaching without your staff, period. You cannot do it alone at all. And then you have your amazing athletes who show up day in, day out and work hard, and they go and do everybody else's sport, and they still continue to excel in their very own too. So if my girls would come down. I'm going to brag just a little bit more on them because we didn't have any issue this year. I'm talking 0 issue with eligibility. Not one. That is huge for the hours that these ladies put in to keep their grades there all the time. So on top of everything else that they put in, they did that too. So I'm going to do the same thing that they did. I've usually said your names, but I'm taking myself off that hook. And you're going to announce yourselves.
Hey, and before they start, I know Coach didn't want to say it, but you know what? 5-time state champions right here.
Marley Binney. Melissa McNeil. Sarah Chevalier. Bryn Means. Avery Cherry. Huey Paget.
Jade Larson.
Chloe Flake.
Casey Clough. JC Perkins.
Nat, I had 8 freshmen this year.
Say that again?
I had 8 freshmen on my team this year. So they excelled right the heck up from our junior high program.
Now you're ready? Okay. Item 3.3, recognition of legendary staff members.
And Mrs. Clark, would you mind coming up? It's up to you.
We going down?
I'm not afraid of one person.
Okay.
Okay.
Members of the board and Superintendent Housley, it's my pleasure tonight to recommend Ms. Judy Evans as a Shiloh Unified School District legendary staff member. She plays an impactful role on our sixth grade team and is a valued member of the Shiloh Junior High School staff. It was my privilege to teach across the hall from Judy for a number of years. I was trying to count today, but I think it was 5, but that might not be right. What I observed from her is that she embodies the kind of a teacher to which middle school students respond. It's not unusual to see her moving around her classroom, speaking to students in a low voice, and just engaging them in academic conversation. When she leads a whole group discussion in her classroom, Judy often says, "What do you guys think?" And in this way, she's a guide for students and gives them room to discover ideas on their own. She's kind and empathetic and quickly learns each student's name, which is no small feat. Judy served previously as a coordinating teacher for the Navajo County Drug Project's Junior Leadership Academy for Shiloh students, and I had the opportunity to work with her in that capacity and observe her in that capacity. The students that she worked with over several summers became her kids, even if they weren't in her class. And she would reference these students at school. Sometimes she'd point them out in the hallway or reference them. And sometimes those kids would just drop into her classroom. I was across the hall, and so I saw them come in and just say hello and get a smile from Judy, even if they didn't have her class. And this is one of the things that Judy brings to her educational practice that I just value so much, is her ability to connect with students. Ms. Evans took a risk this year when social studies content was added to her teaching assignment. She was a little nervous, but she's a lifelong learner. And so what we've noticed is Ms. Evans has embraced the new content and is thriving alongside her students. Her professional practice is sound, and her presence at Shiloh Junior High School is not just felt in her classroom, but in her interactions with staff as well. And I just value Judy's friendship. She is always quick to pay a compliment and brighten my day. And so I'd like to recognize Judy tonight.
One, two, and just skip it then.
Before we move on, can I just say something real quick? I'm really disappointed we didn't get to greet each one of you personally. Just know we don't love you any less, or we're not any more proud of you, because we are, okay? You guys are awesome.
Item 3.4, call the audience. No? Item 3.5, superintendent report to include comments on extracurricular activities.
This is a interesting time of our time in schools. So the last, just wanted to report the last, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but the last several weeks, in particular the last week, have been focused on just a couple of things. And I bring it up in this portion because it does have to do with our extracurricular activities. As the COVID-19 virus continues to grow, you'll see reports around the state with certain teams canceling their competitions. You've seen in the national news the Major League Baseball moved opening day back. That's a sin, I believe. But they also have canceled the NBA, NHL, March Madness. A lot of these things are starting to happen. Some of the high schools, sports in particular, and middle school, also the the teams that we compete against, we're going to see most likely some of those school districts choosing to cancel some of their games or even seasons. We've seen that a little bit. For instance, Red Mesa they will not travel off. They have a moratorium of travel. Their kids won't leave their school district. So any competition, if we were to play Red Mesa, we would have that canceled. So we're going to see that quite a bit happening over the next couple months, I would imagine. To what extent, I don't know. Our approach right now is that we're going to continue to compete as long as we can. And we'll do the things that we'll take all the precautions that are recommended by the CDC and the Arizona Department of Health. There is a meeting coming up with the AIA, and they're going to give direction. If that organization, which oversees our extracurricular activities, decides one way or the other, that could influence what's going on. I just bring that to your attention so you know there's a possibility of those things happening. But as of right now, we're pretty status quo. We're moving into our spring sports. They're all have kicked off. They're all doing really well. You've heard a lot of the things from the winter sports here. We've had a lot of success. Our baseball team has been very successful in the early weeks. Our softball team is in the same boat. Track has competed very, very well. The boys won the Round Valley Invitational and the girls took fourth. So there's a lot of really good things going. I'd be disappointed to see it all come to an end or shortened because of this virus, but that is a possibility that could happen. We have coming up here pretty quick, spring break, as you know, everyone knows when that is, right? It's next week. And then coming out of spring break, we have the AZM2 test, which is the state test. Just as a reminder to the board, that is required by state law. It is part of federal law. And so we administer that test in accordance, and our schools are evaluated based on how well we do on those tests. So we're looking forward to doing great things. Our students are wonderful, and they are some of the best in the state. And I know that what we see on the court and on the field, we'll see in the classroom, and we'll see those things reflected. We are working very, very diligently as far as academics is concerned, not only to meet that need, but if there are some things that happen with the COVID-19, there could be some impact to our academics. Whether, for instance, let's say a child has to be confined for 14 days or whatever the deal is, how do we maintain and give them their education? And so we've put in some things in place in case we have to use them. Those plans that you develop where you're like, we're going to develop them and we hope we never have to use them. That's what we've been working on. We'll go over that in more detail on one of the other agenda items, but that's kind of where we are right now, moving into the final quarter of our school year.
Okay, thank you. Item 3.6, discussion approval of student staff travel due to the COVID-19 virus.
So this is kind of what we're talking about. And I'd like to spend a little more time on this and to hear some discussion from the board in particular. Currently, as a school district, we're not experts in the COVID-19. I don't know how many experts there are in the world, just quite frankly, but it's so new and it changes almost hourly. Today, I've received updates hourly about what's going on, how to respond to it. Simply, our protocol is we have inside of our safety plan, we have a protocol to handle infectious diseases. It is 17 pages long, so I'm not going to read that to you, but it is in place. We are in constant contact with the Arizona Department of Health and Navajo County Health Department. Those two, if there was some impact to our county, to our school, that's where we would get our direction from. If we have a case from someone in our school, the hospital and the CDC, as well as Navajo County Health, would be in consultation with us at the same time, giving us direction on how to respond to that. And so we will work with them closely as we have. Those webinars and those phone calls happen almost daily in Summit. We are taking, just so that you know, if we're impacted academically, for instance, if there's any length of school closure that comes about because of this, our number one priority will be to ensure that the seniors are able to get the credits that they need to graduate and to complete those classes. Make sure that they have those needs. And then any other student involved in a credit-bearing class, which would be high school students, students taking classes through MPC, through NAVIT and other, so that they can maintain their credits, and then working down to our kindergarten through 8th grade students. We have things in place where we could respond pretty rapidly to moving everything into an online system. We already have the foundation of that with our online academy in place. And so it's just a matter of rolling that in. There might be a slight delay in response. If we had to close on Monday, we probably wouldn't start online instruction Monday. It would probably take a week or so. So there might be a lag in that and moving forward. There's protocols in place. We've already currently been doing them for about 3 weeks now, 3 to 4 weeks, as far as the way we approach our cleaning in our classrooms, the deep cleaning, the disinfectants that we use. We've already put into place things with our food service to make sure that those areas where we have high populations of interactions, those things are happening. Desktops are our priority. Other things similar to what you would do in an influenza epidemic, right? So we've taken all of those precautions. We did have a trip that was planned for next week to go to Spain. We had some students that were going to go to Spain with the Spanish club. That's been canceled. A couple things that aided in that cancellation was the president's declaration last night. We are a little bit concerned with spring break coming on. We know that people and families are going to go and do and be involved, and that's great. But when we come back to school on Monday, what will that look like? What will the exposure levels look like? And so we've put some things in place to begin to respond to that, no matter what it looks like. What happens if there's a lot of what happens if, right, scenarios. And we've been processing through those and trying to do our best to put into place plans that we hope to never have to use. But if we have to use them, it will be in consultation with the CDC and the Navajo County Health Department, as well as the state health department. There are a couple of scenarios that could affect it. We make local decisions. We can decide if there's a case or some that we might close school, but then we also are subject to other government agencies. For instance, if the governor says that we're closing, then we would close. If they limit the number of interaction, if they say that no meetings larger than 100, well, then this meeting would look different, wouldn't it? And so states around us have done that, and there's a possibility that could happen. They're all possibilities, but we've been trying to work through all the possibilities. We have some other things that might be impacted, and we have to think about what those look like. We have a play that's been well prepared coming up in April. We have other performances from choirs and bands. We have senior trips in May. I hope it doesn't carry out that long, but we have to think about it. Disneyland just closed today, right? So we have to start to think about what those things look like moving forward and how we're going to respond to those kind of trips. And at some point, how are we going to respond when athletics other teams start to cancel? And what does that look like? But there's a whole lot that goes with it, and tomorrow what I just shared with you, it all might change. That's the nature of what we're dealing with right now. And I think as a public entity, it's part of our responsibility, our responsibility to our community to ensure that we're doing everything that we can to reduce the risk to our community. If this does come, or when it does come to the White Mountains, the amount of beds in Summit are limited, and they service all of the White Mountains, right? So we have to make sure that we're doing our part. We began to post reminders around schools. There's been a flyer that went home through our messaging system to parents. We encourage you to do a couple things. Number one, if you're sick, don't come to school or work. Just take that time and get better. Especially if you have a fever. If you need to take that time and make sure you're doing that. Wash your hands often. That's a recommendation of the CDC. Wash your hands and take care of that. As demonstrated tonight, one of the recommendations is to limit or completely dissolve handshaking. Don't interact by handshaking and then limit your exposure. We have a choice of where we go. We don't necessarily have a choice what we're exposed to, right? But to limit those opportunities for exposure. So that's kind of where we are now. I need to open it up to the board for a little bit of discussion on how you feel about, here coming up. We have those trips that I mentioned with the students, with staff. We send quite a few staff members to training in June and July. Hopefully this doesn't carry out, but we just kind of need to have some discussion on what your thoughts are and how you would like to see us continue to respond.
Before we discuss that, can you tell us how best we will communicate with the public? You've mentioned a little bit, but if we have any changes, how is everyone going to hear about it?
So the number one place for the community to stay informed about the COVID-19 is on the Navajo County Health Department's website. We will not disseminate any information about COVID-19 other than what they give us to disseminate. What we will disseminate through our website is how we are responding. So if there's a school closure or if there's a case of it in our district, we'll notify through our website primarily, because everyone can go on and click that. We'll also send it through our messaging system, so that you'll receive a text, an email, or a phone call. So with that said, just like throughout the winter, we encourage everyone to update their information with their sites if they don't have current phone numbers and addresses.
Thank you.
I know, I'm tired of talking about it too.
Want to add anything, John?
My only thought is that as you go to learn about this issue, I would hope that you would go to a reputable place to learn about it. I'm not sure, Facebook is maybe the best place in the world to learn about it. So like we said, the county and the state or the national websites will have some really good information. And I would recommend you become educated on it, parents and children alike, so that we know what we need to do to take care of ourselves, because it will be rough if we get a lot of folks. It'll be tough.
As far as travel is concerned, obviously we had the Spain trip that was right in front of us. Are there any concerns that you, as a board, have as far as traveling in general, making decisions? I feel personally like it's too early to make decisions on the senior trip. Mm-hmm. It's too early to make decisions on staff training in June and July. Mm-hmm. But those are things just to think about. But as of right now, do you feel like there should be any travel restrictions inside or out of the state? Outside of country, that decision was already made, so we're good on that.
I would say that if you're going to travel outside of the state, you don't go where the problems are, number one. And I would say that as soon as we have issues begin in our area, we probably ought to meet really quickly and make a decision about how we're going to handle that, because it won't take much.
I'd like to see any unnecessary travel suspended.
What would you classify as unnecessary travel?
Safeway.
Safeway?
No, I just think
we
just bring more back the more we leave. So I guess I hate to see people lose out on doing things, but I don't want to send everybody and expose everybody and bring it back.
So is a sport team going to the Valley for a tournament?
No.
Unnecessary?
Yeah.
But we're okay to go to Blue Ridge,
No.
St.
I
John's?
don't.
Really? Okay.
I don't think that, but I mean, I'm not going to decide that today, but I think that's something to look at after spring break.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm worried about coming back from spring break. Who knows where we're all going to go? I know where I'm going.
We canceled.
Nowhere.
Right.
I just think you just need to use wisdom and don't, you're sick, like you're saying, don't come to work, don't go to school, don't, even if it's not anything even close to this superbug or whatever it is. It looks like, smells like something sick, stay home. Because all that's going to do is create panic amongst those that you're around. Oh, they sneezed, I just think we just need to be smart about our decisions. So if we're going to a ball game or whatever, maybe the coach checks everybody's temperature before they get on the bus. I don't know the exact resolution of that, but there's just a few preventative measures that can happen to prevent something from. I'm more worried about people panicking because somebody sneezed or, I don't necessarily think we're going to get, this crazy thing's going to wipe out the mountain or whatever, but I just worry more about what other people perceive, and the panic that goes on, and then the gossip spread and chain reaction from that.
So what trips are coming up that we need to, is that just on the next item or?
So there are a few trips, nothing real major. A lot of the events are already being canceled.
Right?
We don't even have a choice whether to go or not.
Track's going to Safford tomorrow instead of Glendale.
Yeah, I believe the meet was in Glendale and it was canceled. Now they're going to Safford.
Yeah.
A lot of the Valley, Greg was just sharing with me that his son's Little League or his grandson's Little League in the Valley canceled their season. And so we're going to see that more often. Alhambra Elementary School District had to close today. Pima School District in the Gila Valley closed today because they all had active cases of COVID-19.
My understanding was that even music, all state auditions were canceled. They've canceled all state stuff for choir.
Yeah.
And band.
I don't think it's panic. I think people are just being proactive as opposed to being reactive. So I think that's good.
I do too.
Well, once you're in the reactive mode, you're behind.
Yeah, I don't want to be there.
So if are you saying Pima, which is right by Safford,
Right. It doesn't
has an active issue?
close their district.
Is it smart for us to send our kids down there?
Well, I don't think they'll be within 6 feet of anyone from Pima, but I don't know.
Does Pima not be at the track meet?
I don't know. As of right now, with what travel that we have current, I would personally like to take the approach of we're just gonna go as we go, and if we have to respond to certain things, then we respond individually to those. Should there be a case where we have something in our district where there's cause for concern or cause to close, obviously I would involve the board immediately, but Navajo County Health Department is one of the first calls that we make, and we coordinate those efforts together.
Grant, do you want to add anything?
I think Shad has the most up-to-date information. I don't know if you're looking for a motion from us or not as far as to empower you to either, make a day decision on whether or not somebody should go on travel or not. I mean, I'd be happy to give that. That's what you're looking for. So it seems like you said, this is the conditions today and tomorrow they could all change. So it seems like you're on the calls with Navajo County Health District, and they're on the call that you have at 1:00 on Wednesdays. They have one at 9:00 that morning with the state health department, and so they're getting the most up-to-date information. So it seems like somebody's going to make a decision. It would be you who has that up-to-date information. So
my recommendation at the moment is just to continue what we're doing and respond to those individual cases. That's the consensus with the superintendents in this area. in this localized area. And so just play it by ear. I wanted to put it in front of you tonight just so that, number one, we had the Spanish trip to consider until last night, and that kind of went away. But at the same time, we also, if you felt adamant that there needed to be a moratorium on any travel right now, I wanted to have that opportunity for discussion. But if you're happy with moving forward as I'm suggesting, perhaps then we don't need a motion.
When does the AIA meet?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, did you say?
Talking to Dave Nicholas, and I believe it's scheduled for tomorrow. I might be off on that day, but I believe it was tomorrow. Where's Ben?
You're back there.
Yeah, Ben, do you remember what Mr. Nicholas said? Was it tomorrow? Did you hear when the AI?
Want to table this?
We'll continue to bring it up. We'll bring it up in the next board meeting also, and probably between there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any more discussion?
I like the idea of just following the guidance that we've been given, but I err on the side of caution. It does make me nervous sending a track team to Stafford when their team are closed.
Could always go to Safford via Tucson. That was a joke.
I know. Mule Creek, drive around the other way.
Take a bus through Mule Creek. That'd be fun.
Move on.
I guess we can go, yeah. Yeah, we can.
Item 3.7, future board agenda items. Got anything?
I don't have anything.
Item 4.1, approval of overnight and out-of-state travel.
Okay. Madam President, members of the board, there are a couple travels that are in here. These are things that have, I believe the dates are correct in here. These are all subject, obviously, to, well, some of these have already passed. So Jamie Ramsey recommended that Ben Peterson attend the Western Region American Choral Directors Association Conference, March 4th through the 7th, 2020. That was funded through Title, professional development. Part of the things in there is well-rounded education in music and the arts. Mr. Marchant recommended that Jerry Butler and Tracy Johnson take the high school FBLA team to FBLA state competition in Tucson, March 6th through the 8th. And we also have Jamie Ramsey recommends 7 staff members and 2 new junior high ELD teachers to be announced to attend the 2020 Innovative School Conference in Las Vegas, July 5th through the 11th. And she also recommends that 15 staff members to attend the 2020 Differentiated Instruction Conference in Las Vegas, July 5th through the 11th. All of those obviously are contingent on whether we can even do. So bring those for your approval this evening.
Make a motion to approve overnight and out-of-state travel.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 4.2, discussion and approval for Sholo High School to change from an AZ merit test to an AZ M2 test for the 2019-20 school year. Housley, is that you?
So the state recently changed the test, as you're familiar. That new test is AZM2. Part of the thing that you see inside this testing proposal that is for your consideration most prevalently this evening is during the test there is the AZM2 writing, reading 1, reading 2, science, math, and math 2. That is only a specific grade level. All sophomores or freshmen taking the AIM science exam, that's kind of what we're looking at. Everyone else doesn't take the. And so to accommodate for those 200 to 400 students, Mr. Marchant is asking for some consideration for late starts for those students, for those dates for the high school to start late at 10 o'clock to allow those students, approximately anywhere from 200 to 400 students, to come in those days to test from 8 to 10, and then resume a normal schedule from 10 to the end of the school day. So those who aren't involved in testing would start their day at 10 o'clock and come through the end of the day. We've done some late starts in the past. This is similar to some other models that Mr. Marchand has seen, so I bring that to you this evening for your consideration.
So I will move that we, the motion thing listed here just sounds like we're approving a different test, but what you're wanting us to approve is 6-day schedule instead of a 1-day early schedule. Is that, it's the schedule, not the test?
Schedule, yes.
Correct?
Week 1, which is a Tuesday, the 31st, Wednesday, the April 1st, and Thursday, April 2nd. Week 2, Tuesday, April 14th, 15th, and 16th concurrently there, with that late start schedule of 10 o'clock for the majority of the students that aren't testing, and 8 o'clock start for those who are testing to begin.
So you want a motion to approve the testing schedule?
Yes, ma'am.
I so move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 5.1, approval of resignations, retirements, and leave of absence.
Madam President, members of the board, this is the time that these things come about, and we've been actively trying to recruit and rehire for these positions, so we're working on that. You'll notice that there's several openings there from resignations effective at the end of the school year. There are a couple that are intermittent. I won't read those this evening. Those are available for you. Also, for your consideration, I do want to point out, though, the leave of absence, Mrs. Carpenter, Ida Carpenter, a Whipple Ranch kindergarten teacher. She's requesting a leave of absence for 1 year. And the cause of that leave is to take care of some things that are pressing with family and medical conditions and other things like that. So it does qualify for a leave of absence if you were to approve that. And then retirement, Mr. John Grena is retiring as a high school science teacher.
I'll motion we approve as listed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 5.2, approval of new hires and transfers.
For your consideration this evening, approvals of new hires and transfers. Keela Butler, a Nicholas Homestead 4th grade teacher. William Clark, high school science teacher. Brandon Klinkskill, IT support tech. Katie Habgood, Nicholas Homestead school counselor. Jennifer Spradlin, junior high EDP paraprofessional 2. Melissa Starkle, Whipple Ranch elementary school counselor. Aaron Troutman, high school NAVET secretary. And then Tyler Yeager, Nicholas Homestead 4th grade teacher. And then a transfer, Mrs. Jones, Nicholas Homestead 4th grade to Whipple Ranch kindergarten. I bring those for your approval this evening.
I'll move we approve the new hires and transfer.
I'll second the motion. I hate to point this out without anybody else, but I'm very excited to see Tyler grow up here in this town, go to school, earn his degree, and return home to help us. I'm grateful for that. I'm excited to see you continue to progress and develop and grow.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of substitutes, 5.3.
Certified sub Dana Jim, substitute K-12. Also classified Dana Jim, Lyndon secretary. Tanner Marsh, substitute teacher assistant. Jessica Morris, sub bus driver or bus aide. And Rachel Tate, a sub teacher assistant. Bring those for your consideration this evening.
A motion we approve is listed.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of stipends, volunteers, and event workers.
Madam President, members of the board, these are annual things that come up, as we start our new sports seasons, our spring sports seasons. And so you'll notice that there are some things in there: regular stipends, high school prep hour stipends. Those are two that are in there: junior high choir stipend, high school postseason coaching stipends for winter. The wrestling, there were 2 weeks in the postseason for those coaches in wrestling. We had basketball with a week into the postseason, girls basketball 1 week into the postseason, and Spirit Line 1 week into the postseason, as well as high school cross country. We are resending those now due to that resignation. And then high school baseball volunteer, we ask for approval of Brandon Todd as an assistant coach and Tanner Marsh as high school soccer assistant coach. High school wrestling, Tanner Marsh as an assistant coach, in the Whipple Ranch, Connie Sears as a kinder classroom volunteer. Bring those for your consideration.
I'll move that we approve stipends, volunteers, and event workers.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 7.1, bond update.
Currently, we are still in the process of acquiring qualified bids for the auditorium project. That's proving to be a little difficult since there are very few vendors that do that same thing. So we got to work through that end. If we can't find any other vendors, we'll have to open that up and then move forward in some manner to get that. If we don't have 3 bids, we don't have 3 bids, and we gotta try to figure out how to move forward. But we are currently, we couldn't start work on that project. We do have the architect looking at that to begin to see exactly what needs to be. But we do know, as far as the infrastructure, the flies, the curtains, and all that, Clearwing provided that for us, and that's the part that we're waiting to get qualified bids. Okay. As far as the other pieces are concerned, the bond is pretty much wrapping up. We've got some other things that we're considering. As I mentioned, we are nearing the end of that implementation of the Infocast. We've done tests at every site to ensure and to target the areas where we need the additional speaker systems. Hal's got those. We're going to bring in certain products to test them in the areas, and then we'll begin that implementation with that. That has taken priority over our security cameras because we felt like there was a greater deficiency, and the chance that we had with the SFB on our Bogan systems have kind of washed away this fiscal year, and our need is great enough that we have to address it now, because the SFB has exhausted their funds that were available to them at this point. Our SFB projects coming up on spring break, we anticipate, weather permitting, that the painters and weatherization crews will be on campuses at the junior high and Whipple Ranch, prepping those sites for, they'll be removing caulking, they'll be adding caulking and prepping them for paint, prepping the windows to be removed so when students aren't there anymore that they can do that, and they can fill them back, the masonry back in, and have the windows put into place. The gym floor that is going to be sealed, it'll be done by I think they're going to turn it to our final walk on the actual gym floor itself will be the 25th is what we anticipate. And it's looking really great. The only problem now is the bleachers are supposed to come in at the end of April, and then they told us that it might be a little bit delayed, and we have their thought is they can install one side prior to the end of the school year. But now with this COVID-19 stuff going on, we're uncertain how that's going to affect the delivery of those and the timeliness of that delivery. So we're trying to make plans on what that looks like. but that's coming to a conclusion. And we've got several other things in the works with the SFB that we're trudging through. Anything else, Mr. Schubert?
You nailed it.
Any discussion, you guys? No? Item 7.1, discussion and approval of Sourcewell as a cooperative purchasing partner. Mr. Schubert.
So in order for us to use cooperative purchasing or purchasing off of a contract, we need the board's approval to do so. Sourcewell is a newer purchasing agreement for the district. We've gone through it. We've done our vetting process with it, and we bring it to you tonight for your approval for the district to go ahead and use Sourcewell as a cooperative purchasing agreement.
A motion to do so.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 7.3, discussion and approval of budget revision number 1, or budget revision. Mr. Schubert.
So tonight before you is our budget revision. Every year in March, we have to provide a budget revision to ADE. In this revision, you will see that we reduced our budget by $260,000, which is roughly the extra 2% in ADM that you had requested that we provide in our original annual budget. So that has gone back to the state, and you will notice also within the budget, some of the figures have moved from columns to columns just to adjust for spending throughout the years needed in different areas. So we bring that tonight for your approvals.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget revision number 1.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 7.4, discussion and approval of Omnia Partners, formerly known as National IPA and U.S. Communities, as a purchasing cooperative. Mr. Schubert.
So we were using U.S. Communities as a cooperative purchasing agreement, similar to the Sourcewell that you just approved. Omnia recently purchased U.S. Communities as well as National IPA. So we're asking you to reapprove us to use this cooperative purchasing agreement under the new name.
A motion we do so.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 8, consent agenda. Mr. Schubert.
So tonight we bring before you the approvals for the following items: the ratification of our payroll and expense vouchers, the ratification of the junior high, the high school, and the food service activities, revenues, and expenditures, approval of the regular board governing minutes on February 13th, and approval of the following donations. Members of the community donated $24.25 to the high school robotics team. Preston Hammond, store manager of Home Depot, donated 240 bags of mulch for the flower beds at Nicholas Homestead, valued at $1,000. And Aaron Cosgray donated $223 to the high school robotics team. We bring this tonight for your approvals.
A motion we approve the consent agenda.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 9, adjournment. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Just like that?
Like that.
No.